Oh, are you ready? Are you ready for your daily dose of radio rehab? Ready or not, we need them. We need those strategies.
Do we ever?
Strategies for living. Welcome, folks. Welcome into 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Welcome into another edition of Strategies for Living. I'm Dr. David McMillan. She is psychotherapist, PLPC Lauren Leon McMillan. And how you doing?
I am doing well.
Good. So you say tomato, I say tomato.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or something like that.
Potato.
Potato. Yeah, we could go a lot of ways here.
Pecan.
Yeah.
Maybe the most controversial of those down here.
You're right. You're probably right about that.
All right, where are you going with
Well,
this?
where am I going with it? We've started school this week, and with the new school year, it's new beginnings. We've talked about this earlier in the week, and I was just thinking earlier. I was reading, actually. In Joe Masterleo's book.
The Ambient Christ?
Yeah, we interviewed Joseph a week or so ago, and I was reading, and one of the things that he talked about was the root of education, the word education.
Yes, the etymology.
The etymology of, he didn't use that big word,
He's
though.
speaking my language.
Yeah. So I did not know, I didn't realize that actually there's a controversy here because education comes from two very different Latin roots.
Okay.
For the word education in
Now,
English.
sometimes this happens historically, right? Like it roots out originally from one thing and then it becomes another.
Yeah.
So that sounds kind of like what's happened here.
In this case, it's educare and educere.
Okay.
And I'd like to dive into that. I'd like to talk about that a little bit today because I think that at the beginning of this new school year, I think, like all beginnings, there's an opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
And opportunities for all of us as we go through these times in which we live. Certainly, they're challenging times.
Right, but it all comes back down again to definitions. How we define something and how we perceive it then becomes how we experience it. And
Absolutely.
so that's how powerful.
Words are powerful, and what we believe is powerful. And anyway, we're gonna talk about that, play with that a little bit.
I like this.
Play with that a little bit today, if you will, because maybe we don't do enough playing.
Yeah.
So that's today on Strategies for Living. Folks, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate our sponsors making it all possible. The Robinson Film Center and Azalea Cleaners and Learning RX and Pintail Roofing and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. Back in a moment. You say tomato, I say tomato, educare. We'll see. Hey, let's talk about the Robinson Film Center. I say it a lot. There's no place like the Robinson.
Absolutely, there is not.
617 Texas Street, downtown Shreveport. You've got so much. You got the movies. You got Abby Singer's Bistro on the second floor of RFC, open for lunch and dinner Tuesday through Saturday.
Newly remodeled.
Absolutely. Great menu. RobinsonFilmCenter.org is the way you check it all out. You can go to RobinsonFilmCenter.org at any time and find out what movies are showing. Here's the deal. You want to join the crowd, join the fun, become a member. When you become a member, you become a star. You get discounts on movies, you get concession upgrades, you get bistro deals. RFC, 617 Texas Street in downtown Shreveport. I'll say it again. There's no place like the Robinson.
There is not, and I'm glad we have one right here.
Absolutely. The RobinsonFilmCenter.org.
Reading begins not in the classroom, but in your child's brain. I'm Donisa Walker with Learning RX Shreveport. If your child struggles to read, Maybe he or she has trouble focusing or comprehending. Learning RX Report offers a science solution to reading problems, working one-on-one with your child, targeting his or her reading skills. Today, call Learning RX Report. Make an appointment to have your child assessed. I know you want to help your child. So does Learning RX Report.
And welcome in. Welcome into 1017 FM, 710 Keel. Welcome into Strategies for Living. You say tomato, I say tomato, potato, potato. You said the most controversial around here is pecan. And pecan.
Yeah. I think so.
No, who would say pecan?
Oh, well.
It's pecan.
I think
Come
it's
on.
pecan too, but
Everybody knows that.
you gotta be careful.
Yeah.
Might make some enemies.
Well, welcome. We don't want any of those. Welcome in, folks, to 1017 FM, 710 Keel, Strategies for Living. So, I was reading in Joseph Mastrolio's book, The Ambient Christ, and he's talking about learning. And he's talking about there are two different Latin roots for the English word education.
Okay.
And they are educare and educere. And the two meanings are quite different, denoting two concepts about learning. So one looks back and is more static and traditional, and using education as a means of preservation and passing down of knowledge and the shaping of minds in the image of what has gone before, right?
Okay.
And then another looks ahead. It is more dynamic. It sees education as preparing a new generation for the changes that are coming. So educare means to bring up, emphasizing the outside in rote memorization.
Okay.
Educare means to bring forth and values inside out questioning, novel thought, reflection, imagination, and creativity. And while effective schooling, he says, I'm quoting Joe now,
Okay.
while effective schooling fulfills both functions, traditionally, public education has emphasized educare at the expense of educare.
Okay.
Such has been the trend in academia since the age of enlightenment, beginning in the so-called long 18th century. That was 1685 to 1815. In that era, politics, philosophy, science, and communications were radically reoriented toward the purely rational, pragmatic, and sense-bound realm where they remain today. As a collective, it's our trajectory that matters most, less where we are coming from than where we are going. Education is at its best when it is forward-looking, when it guides others in their growth as individuals, in the cultural evolution of our species. Therefore, what follows seeks to level the playing field by giving due deference to the latter definition of education without compromising the former. And he's setting the stage for his book, of course.
Right.
But he quotes then W.B. Yeats, education is not the filling of a pail, but the lighting of a fire. He also quotes Galileo. There are those who reason well, but they're greatly outnumbered by those who reason badly. And finally, Einstein. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science.
Yeah.
So, as we start this new school year, how are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and I do think it's interesting, when I did a quick little research here on the side, right, that the educare, the idea of to lead forth that
Right.
definition, actually it predates the other, which the other is to bring up or to train, educare, right?
Okay. All right.
Which makes sense, and we see that historically, right?
Yeah.
And that we have, as he mentioned, as we have brought on board these new ideas that, oh, you have to memorize facts. And we, especially, I'm going to say, especially in the past 100 to 200 years, when we've really amped up gear towards, well, we have to put people into the workforce. We have to make factory workers, right? I think that's really where things have shifted greatly for us in the world of education.
Yeah. I think when you look at the state of education in the United States today, it's complex. It's multifaceted.
Yes.
It's complex.
As with all things.
And it reflects a mix of both challenges and opportunities for us across a lot of different levels and even regions in our country, right?
Right.
But when you broadly look at K through 12 education, which is, that's the basis, right?
Yes.
That's the what we say by law that has to be. We want the vast majority
the American
of the
standard.
Yeah,
yes.
right.
Okay.
So let's look at a few things there. And again, we're not necessarily getting on a soapbox here or offering solutions. I think I have way more questions than I have solutions.
Right.
But I mean, one of the things we have to look at, Lauren, is let's look at the achievement gaps. There are significant disparities in educational outcomes. And, however we look at it, it's based on the socioeconomic status, race, and geography. There are some schools that offer very high-quality education. Others, particularly in the underfunded areas, they struggle with very limited resources and classrooms, overcrowded classrooms, and outdated materials. And how can that be in the 21st century? How can that be in America today?
I don't know.
Then you bring in standardized testing. And,
buddy.
So, we have a high reliance now, K through 12 I'm talking about, on standardized testing for both accountability and assessment. It remains extremely controversial. Yeah. I mean, the critics of it argue that it narrows the curriculum and it pressures teachers to teach to the test.
Yeah.
Supporters, though, see it as a necessary tool for measuring progress and accountability. They say, otherwise, how are you going to know,
right?
How you're doing?
Yeah.
Then on top of that, we got to pile the teacher shortage. I mean, there's a lot of school districts across the nation. We could just stick with Louisiana, I guess. There's a lot of districts that face teacher shortages, particularly in areas like special ed, in STEM, the STEM fields, and I think the rural areas are struggling. Low pay, high stress, lack of support, those are kind of the reasons often cited as the decline in teacher retention and recruitment, right?
Sure.
And then on top of that, if you're not worried enough, then let's pile on curriculum and policy changes. There's an ongoing debate about curriculum content.
There is, isn't there?
And some states are pushing for changes in how subjects like history and science are taught, and often reflecting broader political and cultural conflicts. So that's the state of that's where we are.
Yeah. Upheaval.
Yeah.
And a little sprinkle of chaos, right?
Yeah. And if we don't feel bad enough yet,
okay,
then let's get to higher education. Let's get to college.
Oh no.
Okay. So, and you know a little bit about this.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I lived it, and I even worked it amongst it.
You got a great education.
Yes.
But how many years are you going to be paying that back?
I don't know.
And is I mean, the cost of higher education has risen, and it continues to rise. And of course, it is crippling. I mean, you can understand, I guess I can understand if a person really wants to be a doctor, a medical doctor, let's say specialized, ultra specialized medical doctor. Or dentist or lawyer or something like that requires a lot of education.
Right.
You might expect, okay, well, there's going to be, that person is going to hit the marketplace with a lot of debt on board. But,
Yeah, but
however, their ability to earn is greatly increased from, I don't know, let's
teacher?
pick up a teacher or a counselor.
Right.
And I mean, that's a real issue.
It is.
And then if that doesn't worry you enough, let's, then equity and access needs to be considered here. More students are attending college than ever before, but access remains uneven. First-generation students of color, and those from low-income families face barriers to both enrollment and the completion rates. And then there's online education. I mean, you've got to factor that in now because it was already there, but COVID-19 accelerated the adoption of online education, which is
big time.
It's expanded access, but it's introduced a whole lot of new challenges relating to engagement and quality and equity. And then you mentioned the workforce a few minutes ago.
Yes.
There's increasing pressure on higher education institutions to align their programs with workforce needs, and this has led to a greater emphasis on the STEM fields, technical training and partnerships with industry. But some worry that the shift may devalue
Holistic education.
liberal arts
Yes.
type education. So, man. And then you get into policy. I mean, what the deal, federal control versus state control, school choice and charter schools, and then equity and inclusion. And, we're not here taking a stand
No.
on any of this.
No.
But I think it's important for all of us to understand this is the
scope of the complexities that we have created, co-created.
I started this segment saying education in the United States today is complex and it's multifaceted. It's not going to be
we're not snapping our fingers to change overnight.
It's not going to happen, and there's not going to be one person or group of people.
No, but it's important to start these conversations
And
to start asking the questions.
Exactly, and that's exactly why we're doing it today. This program, Strategies for Living, we're about healthy. We're about health and wellness, individually and collectively, and we got to ask the questions. We got to be able to ask the questions to get there. Yeah.
That requires true education, doesn't it?
Amen. Well, I don't know that we're going to have a whole lot of answers today, but we're going to have more questions. Maybe we'll make us all think. I hope so. When we come back, more on Strategies for Living. You say Educare, I say Educare, and where do we meet? We'll be back. Dealing with stress, pain, feel like you're running out of options? When your life is balanced, wellness is a given. True wellness is holistic. It's about the mind, the body, and the spirit, all in balance. Now, there's a place right here in Shreveport that's all about helping us achieve peak mental, emotional, and physical health. The Balanced Life, 117 Kings Highway, right next door to Strawn's. Come see and feel the difference getting your life in balance can be. Many of your friends and neighbors have already learned the difference less stress and pain mean in their lives. You can book a discovery session right now online, thebalancedlife.us. All you've got to lose is stress, pain, or maybe both. Come see and feel for yourself the real difference balanced wellness makes. The Balanced Life Wellness Center, 117 Kings Highway in Shreveport, next door to Strawn's. thebalancedlife.us. Are we making us think yet? Wait a minute. You mean we have to think?
Yeah. We don't have to, but
it helps.
Certainly helps.
It helps. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back into 1017 FM, 710 Keel, and the program that's here to help us all get healthier, happier, more peaceful lives. It's all about health and wellness, strategies for living. And I'm David McMillan. She is Lauren Leon McMillan, PLPC, and we're talking education today. Turns out the root word of education comes from two Latin words, very different in their meaning. Educare, educere.
Yes.
You know, you say tomato, I say tomato. Several years ago, I had a fella on strategies, and he's written a couple of wonderful books. Unfortunately, he passed away back in 2018. His name is John Gatto. His name was John Gatto. He was a school teacher for 30 years, and he actually resigned in the op-ed pages of the New York Times. And he resigned when he received the New York State Teacher of the Year Award. He was a fierce advocate for self-directed, what he called guerrilla education for decades. He's the author of Weapons of Mass Instruction and also The Underground History of American Education. And I think he also wrote a book called Dumbing Us Down. Yeah. And so you can understand where he was coming from. Yeah, you get the gist. But his books that are still available are very provocative. They'll make you think.
Yeah.
And you know, and this guy taught for 30 years in some of the worst schools in Manhattan, and in some of the best too. And he says during that time, he became an expert on boredom. And one of the things he says is forced schooling seduces the trapped into believing that inert knowledge, memorized fact bits, and sequences is the gold standard of intellectual achievement.
Yeah.
Learning to connect those bits into meaning for yourself is discouraged. This habit training is a major weapon, he says, of mass instruction.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what we saw, especially when, required schooling was first initiated, right? I mean, it was made to produce factory workers.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I kind of hope we have, to some degree, evolved a little bit past this. I mean,
really?
That's my hope. I don't know that we're quite there in line with the evolution of everything else. I mean, I guess a good point might be, if you think in the past 100 years, right? And I want you to take a car from 100 years ago.
Right.
And compare it to one today.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Vast difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Take a phone.
Yeah.
Well, the communication device from 100 years ago, right?
Vast difference.
Look at the phone, cellular devices
even
we have
the
now.
factories within which those cars and phones are produced today versus however they were produced 100 years ago.
Right.
You're not even going to recognize.
And the sad truth of the matter is, the inside of an American high school has not changed significantly in the last 100 years.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we ought to look at, truly.
Yeah.
And to me, I think it's just kind of gone by the wayside. And it kind of questions, for me, where are we really placing our values in America? What are we valuing?
Yeah. Yeah. He, in his book, and this is I'm quoting from the book Weapons of Mass Instruction. This was the last book that I interviewed Mr. Gatto before he passed away. If you want to get a copy of it, it's called Weapons of Mass Instruction: A School Teacher's Journey Through the Dark World of Compulsory Schooling. John Taylor Gatto, and the book, I think, was actually, republished after he passed. But one of the things that he says in this book, there's a whole chapter entitled "What is Education?" And he said, according to Kant, 4 questions live at the heart of all educational quest. What can I know? What may I hope? What ought I to do? What is man? And he says, school policy in America is made by people who would rather submit to torture than allow students to answer Kant's questions, or any that could make a human difference. Now, that's not my opinion. That's
Right.
the opinion of John Taylor Gatto,
Right.
who, a professional educator. Yeah. A long-time educator.
Right.
Yeah.
30 years.
Yes, and Teacher of the Year in New York State before he resigned in the, what a way to resign in the op-ed pages of the New York Times. That'll get your attention, won't it?
I'd hope so.
So, I mean, you got to ask, I guess we've got to ask, what are we doing, Of course, we've got to teach facts. I mean, you
brought into at the beginning the Educare versus Educere.
Yeah.
Which, you kind of delineated as the idea of, okay, here are the facts and you got to regurgitate them versus what can we bring forth from you, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, we have to be able to build on, we have to have some form of shared definitions in order to communicate.
Right.
And that's what those facts, those basic agreements lay the foundation for, hopefully, then that ability to, okay, now, with this basic structure of communication, your basic your ABCs, your alphabets, your numbers, and your basic math functions, right?
Right.
Now, hopefully then that can become an application process.
Yeah.
Or a creativity process, a questioning.
Yeah. I mean, I think, certainly we have to teach critical thinking skills today. I mean, you understanding the difference between the facts and even, and opinions.
Yes.
And
truly, it's a very fine and sometimes swaying line.
I mean, what are facts?
What are they?
Facts are objective truths,
right?
And
that we agree upon.
And what are opinions? Opinions are subjective beliefs. But helping children develop critical skills means they've got to understand the difference between facts and opinions. We've got to teach that.
Yeah.
They have to learn to take information, which is in great abundance today. I can't even imagine the difference between the information that you had to deal with versus the information that I had to deal with.
Right.
Versus even now,
yes,
the information that a kindergartner, first grader, second grader, third grader has to deal with versus what you had to deal with.
Right.
It's enormous. We live in an information overloaded age, but we've got to be able to discern what can be proven from what is somebody's viewpoint, right?
Right.
And then, we have to follow that with some media literacy. That we live in a digital age, like it or not.
Right. And I don't know how far we've caught up with, okay, this is available, but kind of what are the long-term effects on the children who are growing up with it?
Yeah.
And in it and amongst it.
Children are bombarded, aren't they? I mean, they're bombarded with information from all kinds of sources. So knowing the distinction between facts and opinions is going to help them to assess the credibility and the reliability of sources, and that is what media literacy is.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I would add to that, yes, there is some degree of critical thinking and being able to critically analyze and find evidence for fact versus opinion. And on top of that, there's a very important necessitating now going on.
Right.
That children, and we as adults alongside them actually, learn the ability to go within and to check it out with our own systems, our own internal guidance systems.
Now you're into Educare.
Well, because that's where that's where the true knowledge and wisdom comes from.
Yeah.
And it's
the
about
kingdom of heaven is within. Wonder who said that. About 600 or 700 times.
Could you imagine if children were given the confidence to know and to be able to trust themselves?
Oh, man. What a world. What
right,
a world,
and to be able to bring that forth into the world. That's true education.
Yeah.
If we can get there.
Well, there's no if.
When?
We can get there, but
we have to remove the blocks. I mean, just like with a lot that's
which starts
going on,
with identifying where we are and where we want to go, right?
Right.
You are here.
and we have to be honest about what that is.
We have to
We have to look at that with an honest look in the mirror.
Again, that's the critical thinking, not, where are we? Joe Friday, Dragnet, just the facts. What are the facts versus all of these opinions, and there's a lot of them.
Yes.
But we need to be able to use critical thinking to pull those apart.
The other part of that is we need all of those opinions, but they have to be able to be safely heard and viewed within the context of the whole.
Right.
Right. Okay. No one is better than the other.
Okay. So when we come back from this break, we got to take a break. But when we come back from this break, so we've started something here.
Okay.
Started whether we know it or not. So we started introducing what's necessary. Well, critical thinking's necessary, and media literacy is necessary. But there's some other necessary things. We're in the communication game. That's necessary. Some other things that we talk about a lot are necessary. Okay. We're going to tackle those when we come back here on Strategies for Living. You say Educare, I say Educare. and where are we going to meet?
Well, I dare you.
Yeah, we'll talk about it more here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us. You're going to see the difference. When you go to Azalea Cleaners, you'll hear about it too. Azalea Cleaners has been fine dry cleaning since 1958, plus laundry, alterations and repairs, comforters, wedding gown cleaning and restoration. You'll hear about it from your friends because they'll see it too. They'll notice the Azalea difference. Azalea is convenient. 732 Azalea Drive, 9220 Ellerby Road, and 9227 Mansfield Road. Plus, the front door of your home or business with Azalea's delivery on demand. Just text SETUP to 249-8283, and Azalea will pick up your clothes and deliver them back clean and fresh to you. You can't get closer than that. That's the Azalea difference. You'll notice it right away. Others will too. The Azalea difference. Fine dry cleaning since 1958. Text SETUP to 249-8283 and get the Azalea difference. AzaleaCleaners.com. And welcome back. Welcome back into 101.7 FM and 710 Keel. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Like it or not, school days. Yep, we're back.
Back in session.
Yep, and well, the good news is it's the weekend. We've got a couple of days to recover, don't we? I guess that always gives you something to look forward to. It's called Fridays, right? Lauren Leon McMillan, David McMillan here on Strategies for Living. We're talking about the things that as we begin this new school year, what do we really need to consider? What are the things that are important? Certainly.
What are we teaching our children?
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, because there is Educare, and then there is Educare. Are we shoving in facts, and opinions? And sometimes we shove in a lot of opinions that masquerade as facts.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's imperative that we teach critical thinking skills. I think it's imperative in this world today that we have a way to teach media literacy. I think effective communication.
Oh, huge.
So, I mean, clear communication.
Which, again, is another area in modern times that is rapidly evolving.
Yeah, yes.
Right? Because of, as you've mentioned earlier, the media.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of course, slang and dialect come and go with each generation.
Right.
But there's a lot of shorthand, and especially with AI, I mean, we're not as maybe adept or inclined to learn those skills of writing and communication. And yet...
But clear communication is about being able to differentiate between the facts and opinions, the factual statements and personal viewpoints. And being able to teach this helps children to, express themselves clearly and understand the perspectives of others, right? Because I think that's important. But then on the heels of that, and this is something you and I talk about here on Strategies a lot, and that's conflict resolution.
Yes. Big time.
Recognizing that opinions can differ and will differ from person to person. And that fosters both empathy and tolerance. And it encourages children to consider different viewpoints and to resolve conflicts respectfully. Unfortunately, I'm not sure we're demonstrating that really well right now to our kids. And so I wonder how much that kids, and I don't know the answer here, but I wonder how much kids are exposed to in their homes, because I know that in some homes, MSNBC may be on the majority of the day. In other homes, Fox may be on the majority of the day.
Right.
Those are very different ways of looking at the world. But
in either case, it can tend towards vitriol, if you ask me.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, I think both of sides have tended towards near violence.
There's a commentator that I watch some, and he says, he says that our two-party system has created what he calls a race to the bottom. I don't know if he's right or not. I can't prove it or disprove it, but he's got my attention. He's got my attention in at least considering that.
Yeah.
One of the things I worry about is the skills of research skills. You and I went to my 50th high school reunion.
Yes.
And I was a bit disappointed to learn that there's no library.
Right.
Well, there's a librry, but it does,
it's not.
It's
very sparse on books.
It's sparse on books, and the guy that was giving us the tour.
There's no librarian.
There's no librarian. There's no because that's not what kids do anymore.
No, because it's all available at their fingertips.
Right.
Literally.
That's what he said. He's there when we were in the library. There's a couple of it's a rather quiet place. There's a couple of comfortable chairs back there, and he said, about the only time somebody's in there is around the lunchtime. That it's a nice quiet place to
eat lunch.
To come and relax after lunch. But understanding facts does encourage children to seek evidence and to verify the information. But that's research. That's research skills, and I think we have to have those skills. And
being able to recognize credible sources.
Yeah, but then there's also got to be the habit of questioning and investigating. Where did this source go? What is the source of this? Where did this come from? And being able to ask, being curious, to ask the questions,
right? To
keep digging. I don't know. I think that's a very, very important in this facts and educare environment that we find ourselves in. How do we define academic success anymore? How do we define it? And
ask that again. That is good.
How do we define academic success?
That is an important question for us all to really truly chew on.
Yeah, and it's not just STEM. It can't be just STEM. No. I mean, STEM is important. I mean, I certainly. Absolutely. But so is literature. So are the arts. And so is physical education. Because again, subjects like history and literature and science lay the foundation for evidence-based reasoning and analysis. Is that the way we're defining academic success? We've got to wrestle with that. We've got to grapple with that. It doesn't seem to me that we're there.
No.
Yeah. Doesn't seem to me that we are united. Yeah. We are a United States.
I mean, it's the old idea that there's going to be a few artists in every classroom.
Right.
And the artists are not going to do well on a scientific analysis or a scientific test of sorts, right? And so they're going to be handed a quote-unquote failing grade.
Right.
And see themselves as, quote, then therefore a failure, when in fact that's just not their gift. Which brings into question, okay, how are we truly chipping away and finding the gold in our children and being able to harness that and give
not
them...
the goals, not the GOAL, but the gold. The GOLD.
Because
the gold
the
within.
Inner gold. We all have it.
Exactly.
To
it's
offer
within
to the world.
Every human being, no matter what shows up on the outside. Yeah. There is gold in them thar hills.
There is.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're here.
But so many kids come out of the system that we
with
call...
a terrible self-esteem.
Oh, and convinced that,
I didn't fit into this mold, so what am I worth?
I just can't. I can't do it. I just can't. Well, I don't know that we've given a lot of strategies for as answers today.
Oh, Lord, have we failed?
But sometimes, well, I don't think so, Lauren, because I think sometimes the questions...
Yeah.
The questions are just as important. The questions. We're on a quest here. We'll be back here on Strategies for Living. Stay with us.
Hi, this is Jay Merle for Pintail Roofing. Let's talk about quality. When you hire Pintail to build your roof, here's what you can expect. Quality and quality control are the most important concerns for us at Pintail, and you need to know that Pintail stands tall with swift and professional performance on any warranty call. This is our most important policy. And remember, we're your neighbors. We'll be here for you for the long haul. Our family's lived here for over 100 years, and we aren't going anywhere. On the commercial side of Pintail's business, our fluid-applied roofing solutions can save thousands of dollars over conventional commercial roofing options. Call Pintail at 226-ROOF for a free inspection of your home or commercial building. That's 226-7663. Pintail Roofing. What's the condition of your roof?
Well, what all have we stirred up today here on 101.7 FM, 710 Keel, as we begin a new school year. Yeah, ready or not, here it is. And so in the last few days, we've been chatting about education. You say Educare, I say Educare, or vice versa. How do we meet in the middle, And these are things I think we have to think about, that we like it or not. I've said this before, but back in my day, I was so excited when we got Six Flags over Texas, and I remember the maps. You would go from the different lands, from one land to another. You are here.
Right.
We need to know where we are to know, if I'm in frontier land and I want to get to future land, I need to know where I'm starting from and where I want to get to, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And so, it's important.
Yeah, it's important to ask the questions and to look at what are we valuing And how are we showing that, demonstrating that value with our energy, with our time, with our money?
And don't ever forget that your kids are watching you. Don't ever, none of us should ever forget that, yes, we do a lot of talking to them. We tell them a lot. But
you are the greatest model.
In the end, they're much more likely to do what they see us do than what they hear us say. So just, a word
Be
of
mindful.
a reminder. Yeah, a reminder that you are powerful. You're a powerful being.
Influence.
And you're a powerful influencer. Every single one of us are. And so there you go. We'll leave it right there. Folks, thank you. Thank you for tuning into Strategies for Living today. And we appreciate our sponsors making it possible. The Robinson Film Center, and Azalea Cleaners, and Learning RX, and Pintail Roofing, and the Balanced Life Wellness Center. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call to make, who is it that you'd call? And what is it that you'd say? And why are you waiting? Make the call. For Lauren Leon McMillan, I'm David McMillan. See you next time, right here on Strategies for Living.